Wednesday, May 7th, and pleased to welcome you back to the Frozen Edge with Timo Seppa. I'm Casey Ditzel, and a night of comebacks in the NHL, a little bit unexpected. 2 games in a row, and now something that we're starting to see become common here, starting in the Washington-Carolina series. The Canes coming back in the third period, and then followed up by Vegas and Edmonton with an Edmonton Oilers comeback in the third. So quickly, Timo, let's run back through last night. The first period of the Hurricanes game, Carolina throwing everything on net, unable to find the back of the net, but the scoring chances at the end, just 6-4, even though it seemed astronomically higher than that. Shots attempted in the second period after 40 minutes were 71-28, but it was Alexi Protas with the only goal that had the Capitals ahead. Carolina eventually able to come back. They score in the third. It goes to overtime. Jacob Slavin, kind of a long-range shot that just pinballs its way through everybody in front. Kind of a fitting finish for Carolina, who threw everything on net there. Is this something we can expect out of Carolina hockey? Obviously, they like to throw, as many shots towards net, but it seemed like Logan Thompson was able to slow many of them down. Are they going to be able to find success going forward with that strategy?
Yeah, I think we both thought when we were messaging during the game that Thompson looked really good in the beginning. Carolina, it's their shot volume. It's not a shot volume strategy. They're so much. I mean, that's part of it. They're built to be really good to possess the puck. That's part of it. And when you're winning the possession battle, it is showing up in shots and shot attempts. So that's part of it, is just you're seeing a team that's for years and years has been good at possessing the puck. As far as the shot volume strategy, there is something to that, and it can be deprecated. And I'm one of the ones that deprecates it sometimes. But there is a method to the madness sometimes where it's not just low volume shots. Yes, sure, game winner from Jacob Slavin can get through. But when you are causing chaos in the offensive end, sure, a lot of those shots get blocked, but some of them can make it through. Some of them can cause juicy rebounds, and now the rebound is a high danger chance. So there is something to be said for this kind of mindset. I think it just needs to have some. It needs to have some balance. It's not shots for shots' sake, but if the shots are creating a chaos and that is part of your winning strategy, I think it's a good strategy.
Well, cause chaos was Carolina's motto going through last season, something that they've continued in. They take game one, 2-1, the final in overtime. Much more dramatics in the Vegas-Edmonton late game. And you told me not to gloat. I got to a little bit. Our day one pick for a player out of this game was Carlson with the line matchup immediately. He picked up 2 points in the first period, as well as Eichel to Stone, or Carlson to Eichel to Stone. So all of the players that we had talked about yesterday did pretty well there in the first period. And Vegas looked like they had a pretty handed lead there, off to a 2-0 start. But McDavid led the charge back. He gets the assist to Corey Perry at the end of the first period. That made it 2-1. Going into the third period, they are quickly able to tie the game, and it was a beautiful goal from Leon Draisaitl, kind of swiping it out of midair, a baseball swing from behind the net off the back of the goalie that trickles in, and all of a sudden the game's 2-2. Late in the game, they get a couple of goals, the game winner, and an empty netter. So that kind of answers the question we had there yesterday, was whether or not the big stars of the offense in Edmonton could carry the weight and kind of offset some of those question marks. It was McDavid who got it done. 2 assists last night. He now becomes the second fastest player to 90 career assists with the 2 he had last night. and he is second to only Wayne Gretzky in that category. The Oilers also become the first team in postseason history with 5 straight comeback wins. So some snaps to the Edmonton Oilers and Connor McDavid. If they can continue the way they looked through at least the last 40 minutes, that was a pretty scary Edmonton Oilers team. We have 2 games on the slate here tonight and hopefully can find some more winners here, Timo. So let's start with game 2 in the Florida-Toronto series. Game 1, a 5-4 Leafs win, and the big storyline, Anthony Stolarz was hospitalized following that game. We touched on that yesterday, but Joseph Woll will be the starter tonight. The Panthers were able to find a little bit of success. 3 third-period goals after Woll came in relief. So now as we look, first let's start with the series, because this is kind of our first look at it since we started yesterday after game 1 had already been played. There's still a chance to kind of catch some pretty good odds, really both ways you want to look at this. Florida at plus money to come and win this series. They're plus 102, down 1 in the series after the Leafs won. Toronto minus 122 with a 1-game lead. For each of these teams to win in 6 or better, minus 1.5 on the series spread. Toronto is plus 158. Florida is plus 230. So with the lack of structure that we saw from Florida in game 1, there has to be a little bit of an expectation for improvement. What could that mean for the series if the Panthers can tend towards that typical Florida Panthers hockey we're used to seeing?
Yeah, just overall, let me break down just like as if we were starting a series here today. I mean, Florida won the season series 3-1, 3 wins, 1 loss. So that's something you like from Florida there. Florida also dominated special teams in the season series. So their power play was actually 5 for 11 in the season series, while Toronto's was only 1 for 9, and that followed through in game 1 as well, where Florida was 1 for 3 and Toronto was 0 for 5. So if Toronto can't improve on those special teams numbers, that's certainly one reason why you would like Florida in the series and Florida even going forward right now. A bunch of other stats that I would look at just overall for the series. Again, whether you're looking at the season series between Florida and Toronto or just the regular season numbers, Florida was next to Carolina was the second best team as far as 5-on-5 Corsi or shot attempts at 55.1%, and they dominated Toronto in the season series as well, and that followed through in game 1. So a bunch of things there that you like for Florida over Toronto. Obviously, goaltending is going to be a big question here. Stolarz, just looking at regular season, he was a .926 save percentage. That was tops in the league. He obviously played less games than Connor Hellebuyck, but he edged Connor Hellebuyck there. Woll was solid, but only 909. So that's going to be a step down for Toronto. And I guess the other thing that I would say here too is just hitting is something that I would point out for Florida. Hits aren't always a big deal, but especially when in the regular season, might be overblown. You know, you play a team and then you might not see them for weeks afterwards. Here you're playing potentially a 7-game series against a team. And Florida led the league with 2,446 hits. First place by a lot. Not Toronto was 9th, but a lot less physical than Florida. So will that take a toll over the series? It might. And game 1, Florida out-hit Toronto 51 to 24. They had Florida had 5 players with 5+ hits: Verhaeghe, Barkov, Kulikov, Bennett, and Rodriguez. Toronto had 7 players with no hits. So Just a bunch of the stats that are standing out to me, both for the series and going into game two.
I'd like the opportunity to pick that minus 1.5 on Florida, and something that I kind of thought going into this would be the opportunity for a couple of splits. Both teams are good road teams. If Florida can get one back here tonight, split on the road, and then maybe take games 5 and 6 at plus 230 to come back and win in 6 games or better. That's a pretty good opportunity to pick up some cash on a Florida team that came in as heavy favorites. An opportunity as they dropped game one there. Now we shift our focus to game two here tonight, specifically in Toronto, and the hometown Leafs are the underdog right now, plus 114. Florida is minus 137 on the money line. Plus 1.5 is minus 220 for the Leafs. Florida to win by 2 or more at minus 1.5, plus 176, and the over-under set at 5.5. So in this game two matchup in Toronto, what are some of the most influential factors that you have your eye on?
Yeah, one of the things we can look at is we can look at some advanced stats, and we have some very good friends at Stathletes that gave us some advanced stat info on all these series. So we shout out to Greg and Megan over at Stathletes for giving us some of these stats. One of the things that they pointed out is for the regular season, just how often and how well the Panthers play the dump and chase game, where they are they're first in the playoffs with 60% of their zone entries coming off of dump ins, and they're very successful at winning battles and forechecking and taking advantage of that. Now, Florida is also a strong forechecking team, but Florida it's just one of the things that's their bread and butter. It goes against what you would have seen from analytics thinking, certainly a few years ago, 5-10 years ago, where it was all about entries with possession. But if you play a smart dump and chase game, play a smart forecheck game, teams have shown that it can be effective to making long runs in the playoffs.
Florida had the lone power play goal. It came from Seth Jones to get the Panthers on the board in that first game. The Leafs play a much different setup than most teams. 5 forwards on the power play, and it's that, in quotes, core 5 or core 4 plus Matthew Knies. Knies has had so much success this postseason so far, and looking at game one, that continued. It was Nylander leading the way, 2 goals and an assist. Marner had an assist. Matthew Knies, the game-winning goal, adding an assist. Matthews and Tavares did not have points, but they were so influential in that game 6 elimination game. So on that power play with the 5 forwards, what aspects does that add risk without having a D? But where can they kind of look forward and try to capitalize, trying to catch that strong Panthers penalty kill maybe?
Yeah, certainly teams have been doing. I've heard on a bunch of the series and the announcing here, pointing out these 5-man power plays. I mean, they've existed for a while. You look back 10 years ago, there were teams with a 5-man power play. So it's not like something completely novel here. But per what you were saying there, I would say that I'm, like, overall, I would tend to say that teams might be best off with one offensive-minded defenseman and then 4 forwards on the power play. I just don't see the extra benefit, unless there's somebody's ego that needs to be stroked for being on the first power play unit. I don't see the benefit of having that extra forward on the power play versus the risk of having someone who is used to walking the blue line, used to making their plays and passes and shots from the blue line like an elite defenseman. And all these teams have an elite defenseman at this point in the playoffs. So, Toronto has struggled on the power play. I mentioned it earlier in my stats. versus Florida. And I don't know that the five forward power play will be the key here. I mean, I feel like it's more risk than is necessary. We'll see what happens. I'll be interested to see if Toronto's power play steps up and they prove me wrong, let's say, on really having a good game on the power play, or does Florida make them pay with a shorthanded goal here in the next couple games?
The power play again held off the sheet last game. If you're looking at one of those players to get on the board, that's a chance to boost some odds to record a power play point. Austin Matthews plus 175, Nylander plus 185, Marner plus 185, Tavares plus 260, Nyes plus 290. But I'm going to go the other way. My picks for the night here. If you're trying to go series, again, I like Florida in the spread at minus 1.5 to win in 6. And game 2, I'm going to take the spread as well. The Florida Panthers to jump on that goaltender advantage. I think Bobrovsky is going to be a lot stronger in net than we saw in game 1. And I think an opportunity for the Panthers to pick up a win of 2 or more goals. Timo, let's move on. The second game on the slate tonight is Winnipeg and Dallas. And we'll start with a little bit of a preview on this series. Game 1 coming up tonight. Both these teams coming back from dramatic Game 7 wins. In 106 years of the Stanley Cup playoffs, up until this past week, there had only been 3 multi-goal Game 7 comebacks. We saw 2 of them in back-to-back nights. Dallas led by Mikko Rantanen. He had no points in the opening 2 games. 1 point in the first 4 games of that series against his old team, but all of a sudden erupted 11 points in games 5 through 7 with 3 points in game 5, 4 points in games 6 and 7. Both of those came within 1 period, and none bigger than the third period game 7 hat trick to eliminate his former team in the 4-2 comeback victory. Jason Robertson has not played since the final game of the regular season. He was skating in line rushes yesterday. Miro Heiskanen has not played since January. He's also on pace to return during this round. So the Stars trending in the right direction. Heiskanen over 28 minutes time on ice averaged last playoffs as the Stars went to the conference final. On the Winnipeg side, again, a dramatic comeback. They were down 2 into the final minutes, pulled the goaltender twice, scored 2 6-on-5 goals, and a beautiful overtime game winner to finish it off. Mark Scheifele did not play Game 7 for the Jets. Josh Morrissey, who's their star defenseman, was banged up in the first period. He did not return to Game 7. Both players game time decisions going into Game 1. Connor Hellebuck has been a big question mark as well, pulled from all 3 road games in the first round. Game 7, a couple of shaky goals early, but kind of able to quiet the doubters for now. He played very well throughout the rest of that game. So as we now look towards Game 1 here and look towards the series upcoming, what are you watching, as we get ready for Winnipeg and Dallas?
All right, so breaking down the series, we look at the season series between the 2 teams that went 3-1 to Winnipeg, and they won pretty handily in those games. The 3 games that they won were 4-1, 4-1, and 4-0. So overall, they outscored Dallas 13-5. Obviously, and currently we're dealing with those injury situations, but not the case during the season series. One of the things that would really worry you if you were a Dallas supporter was their power play in the season series, 0 for 11, whereas Winnipeg's was solid. A lot of things pretty even here in the matchups for this series. Things like the 5v5 Corsi or shot attempts, pretty even between the teams. As far as hitting, Dallas is a below average hitting team, but Winnipeg is a below average hitting team. Dallas has had the second lowest hits in the league. So not looking at a physical series either. To me, other than the potential special teams advantage for Winnipeg, The things that strike me as the major factors here is one, the injuries, like you talked about. Who's coming back? What kind of shape? We're talking about big players here with Robertson and Heiskanen, Scheifele. These are big factors with who comes back and in what shape and when. But I mean, the elephant in the room here is Connor Hellebuck, right? He had, for me, a slam dunk Vezina season. He had a .925 save percentage, fractionally less than Stolarz, but carried a much heavier load than Stolarz did. 8 shutouts in the regular season. He has an unbelievably low save percentage of .830 for the playoffs. Just like think about that drop off from .925 to .830. His individual games this playoffs, .824, .955. That's the one very good game. .760, .722, .842, .783, .897. Unbelievable what kind of a drop off it's been for Connor Hellebuck. Yeah, was St. Louis hot? Still doesn't excuse a Vezina caliber trophy goalie dropping off that much. Is it all in his head? Maybe it is, but to me, the biggest question, aside from injuries, is what Connor Hellebuck are we getting? Are we getting Vezina trophy Connor Hellebuck? Are we getting the guy who was not good in the first round or somewhere in between? And for anybody putting money on this series, putting money on this game, that's the question you need to answer, is what Connor Hellebuck is showing up.
The President's Trophy Winnipeg Jets are the underdog going into this series, plus 150 to advance to the conference final. If you like the Jets, but aren't sure if Dallas might have a chance, you think it could go the distance, the plus 1.5 on Winnipeg is at minus 148. Not terrible odds there. Winnipeg minus 1.5 on the series spread is plus 300. For Dallas, minus 182 on the odds to win the series. Minus 1.5 on the series spread is at plus 116. So if you're looking at Dallas, probably have to take them in 6 games there. As we look to the game 2 lines here, it's pretty much a pick 'em here for game 1. Winnipeg at plus 104. They're minus 250 on the spread at plus 1.5. Dallas minus 125 odds, plus 200 on the spread at minus 1.5. The over-under set at 5.5 goals. What are the biggest decisions you have to make picking this series, Timo?
As I said, you're not going to know what's going to happen with the injuries, other than the reports of kind of everybody looking like they're coming back more or less. So you'd expect Dallas to be playing better as they get some of their guys back. To me, it's all on Connor Hellebuck. Man, I loved him in the regular season. It's hard to see how that's gonna turn around so quickly, but maybe it will.
Dallas is a team that gives up a lot of rush chances. Hellebuck has struggled. For me, that is a big indicator that I like the over here in game 1. Both of these teams coming off of tight checking, hard-fought game 7s. I think that might loosen up the opening game here. So for me, it is the over 5.5 for this game. I also like the Dallas series spread, minus 1.5 for Dallas to win this series in 6 games or less. So that's the slate for tonight. Tomorrow's games, we will return here. Timo, any final thoughts as we wrap it up?
No, I'm good here.
7 o'clock the start for the opening game, 9:30 for game 2. And hopefully some of these picks and advice will come to fruition and generate some cash here. Timo and I will be back tomorrow morning. We're going to have regularly dropping episodes between 11 o'clock and noon. So make sure to like and subscribe on Spotify and YouTube. Turn on those post notifications, and we'll help you out with your picks every day going forward for the rest of the Stanley Cup. For Timo Seppa, I'm Casey Ditzel. Have a good one, everybody.